Hello and welcome. It's Thursday, so it is our What's Alive series, and the focus for today is always business by design. So every Thursday we come on, or at least we try every Thursday to come on and talk about business by design. The focus for today is Pluto, like it was last week, and we're going to talk about Pluto in your design, Pluto and how it may have everything or nothing or something to do with business and how to look at it through that lens. And yeah, is there anything that you want to add before we go get into anything, or what are you
I was
feeling?
looking a little bit at the transits, but we have Venus, we have Pluto, there are some aspects with Saturn, but I almost feel like I don't want to pull from the transits. I want to like pull from you and me, Ashley, and see where we are with business by design. We're going to have like the class or the sharing today about Pluto in a few hours. So I feel like I more want to go with our world than with the kind of big astrological world.
Okay, then I have a question for you, and maybe you can start off. So let me get a question. So let's start off. What is your Pluto? So you can remind everybody what is your, if you want to do your personality and your design Pluto, and a little bit about what that means before you answer the question and weave it.
Yeah, my personality Pluto is in Libra and it's 32.5. And then my design Pluto is also in Libra and it is 50.1. And that's my only first line in my whole human design profile. The shadow is the shadow of the fear of failure, you could say, for the 32. And I believe, and I have it in the fifth house, which is self-expression and that kind of Leo energy, to be on stage, to be in the sunlight, basically in the middle of the attention. And I believe that I was looking at the aspects the other day in our Telegram group where I was looking at where it is, and it felt like with my North Node, where I'm going, it's so important for me to go from the fear of failure to that kind of fearlessness that we can have in the 32 that says, okay, this doesn't serve anymore. And this is where I'm going to put my energy. This is what I'm going to nurture. And this is how I'm here to express myself in the world. There is also something when we speak about Pluto, if we look in evolutionary astrology, where we're looking at Pluto and the polarity point. So if you're into Jinkies, you would call that the programming partner. It's the opposition. It was on the other side. So the way that you can come out of the Pluto kind of story that you might be going around in circles about the same way that we might do with our core wounds is to actually look to the other side. And there is something with the fifth house where you can feel kind of special. And maybe in other lifetimes, because Pluto is kind of telling us where we come from, you were very special. And then you are kind of expecting that everybody's going to treat you like special and like, an artist or somebody expresses yourself from that creative way in the fifth house. And then for me, when I have in Libra, is an energy with the other. So it can be to like nullify your own life or like becoming something because somebody else wants it from you. Like those kind of things where in relationships, there can be corruption, there can be not really codependency, but more like living something that isn't really your life because the scales are not really balanced. So that's like that's more what I'm speaking about now is more they're so close. Pluto is taking 248 years to go around the whole like, what do you say, like to come back to where it was. So when you're going to look at 3 months difference from your design, from your personality, your design, you're going to see that they are right by each other. So you're probably going to be in the same house, in the same sign, or they're in the cusp, on both kind of on a cusp on each side of the sign. But I feel like I was a little bit more focused on that fear of failure that can maybe not allow me to really kind of look further. And the polarity point is the 11th house. So it's about community, it's about the world, it's about the future, it's Aquarius. So that's also where I have my life's work. So it's important that I don't get stuck in my Pluto in the fifth house, in the fear of failure, because then I'm never going to have the chance to look towards the 11th house and live my brand, my life's work that I have there in that placement.
Yeah. And I'm going to pull up the mandala really quick just to show people. Pluto doesn't move really quickly. And so Bella has the 32 and the 50. And then I have the 28 and the 44. And we're a couple years apart. Like I was born a couple years after her. And you can see how all of these are splenic gates. So me and Bella have both of our Plutos in the splenic center. And the splenic center is intuition, it's instinct, it's your body, it's your immune system, it's all of that. So that's going to be really alive for us. If you look at your Pluto and maybe somebody born after me has the 1 or the 43, you can see that those are in different centers. And then we move into the sacral. So there's something happening. The transit of Pluto seems to be doing a lot of transformation in the splenic center with the people that are born and living today. And then the ones that are coming after me or Bella, there's stuff happening in the sacral. This is all about life force, doing, like the energy center. So we're going to see that as Pluto moves, you can see what centers are being activated by Pluto and what transformation is happening there. Okay, so my question for you is, and I think you'll like this question, why is the darkness or the shadow fertile ground? Like, why would you say that the darkness or the shadow would be fertile ground? And why does it have to do with Pluto?
I believe Pluto has to do with the unconscious, and often we even maybe we think that the unconscious is the dark, but it's like it's a shadow, like we can't see it. So it's because it's just we can't see it. And Pluto was discovered less than 100 years ago, and it's almost like humanity was maybe too much in survival, and not the consciousness hadn't expanded enough for most of us, at least the critical mass. I mean, sometimes I read things from the year like 1500s, and I'm like, how could this person know this so many years ago? So of course there have been the few, and there probably have been civilizations that then don't exist anymore. But in general, the way that we have been able to work with our unconscious and make it become conscious in the last 100 years, just with how psychology has come up, and a lot of even the new age, everything that has allowed us to look at those parts of us, of what's been repressed, of what we haven't usually spoken about. And I mean, I can see that my grandmother and my grandfather, what they spoke about with their parents, or what they even spoke about in their relationships, that there was so much more that shouldn't be spoken about, that was repressed. So for me, when we go to those places, that's really where the fertile ground lies. And I feel like with Venus right now in Scorpio, which is also the more sexual, which has to do with that kind of darkness too, like the moments where you're completely naked with the other and you meet some of those places where it hurts, and you can face that together, like that is really fertile ground. And you probably know that with a lover, if you had a strong experience, that a door opens, and it's a door into the physical. It's a door into the realms where for me the soul lives. And for me, it's in the darkness when we can go to those places. That's when the soul can express itself, because the soul has all the memories of what your individuated, whatever that vehicle that is intact from life to life, whatever you bring with you, it's everything you have experienced. And it's not going to be just clouds and laughter. It's going to be everything that humanity has experienced up to this point, and all the karma that we're also here to transcend, to look at, to dissolve in one way or another, which is exactly where we've been in the transits with the quarter ring of alchemy, like feeling the weight of all that, daring to look at it, because when we look at it, that's when more light can come through. And that's when we kind of in the cracks, we get born to something new, and the conscious repressed becomes conscious. And in that, there is a lot of light inherent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And since Pluto it moves kind of slowly, everybody that's born in that year has that same Pluto. So it's like this generational thing. And so the work that you're doing is for you and for the collective. So you're like that puzzle piece. Everybody's a puzzle piece. And the more that you can go into that shadow and bring it to light, and have it expressed. Like if you think of your unconscious Pluto expressing through your conscious Pluto, you can weave them together because that's going to be expressed through the medium of your conscious Pluto. So if mine is the 28, and I have the 28, which is a daredevil archetype, which has a fear of losing time and not finding your purpose and not enacting that in the world, that is in the 8th house for me, which is Scorpio, which is also Scorpio. So I have triple Scorpio, the gate, the house, and the sign. So all this Scorpio energy wants to come through in the medium of business because I have the 44.1 in the 10th house, which is business. And I think that it's Scorpio too. So that expression, my purpose lies in these connections, these relationships. The grid worker is the archetype's name. And so all of that death, rebirth, transformation, shadow, darkness, everything that the 28 can represent, I need to take risks with other people as well, in business, and continue to do that so I can heal all the things in Pluto as well for me and for the collective. And what veils it is always Neptune. So a lot of people could bypass any of that transformation, that change, that possibility that could happen in Pluto when you get caught up and hung up by your Neptune, because Neptune's this large planet and Pluto's not even a planet. So it gets veiled by the spirituality and immensity of Neptune. And my Neptune's the 58. So oftentimes I'll get so caught up in like my energy, my life force, and like giving it and sharing it and giving it freely that I won't want to give it to partnerships. I won't want to take the risk because of how much energy and time it takes to do that. So I'll bypass that transformation because I feel like I don't want to give my energy to that. That's not vital for me. And I'm like tricking myself into not having that transformation because the ego is super tricky and it'll just be like, no, that's too much time. No, that person's not worth it. No, But really it's just trying to protect me from the transformation. So you can look at your Neptune and see how that might be keeping you from that.
I have a similar theme. I mean, a different theme, but a similar thing that I can see that Neptune does for me. I have the 11 twice. The 11 is the idealist of our archetypes, and it's all about ideas, and it has like a million ideas. And sometimes I can veil even that kind of fear of failure by everything I'm doing, because the ideas are also that before I was traveling all the time, I was doing all these things. So I don't have to look at the things that are important. They're there, that are part of my transformation. They're part of the things that I have to cut off and kill. But there are just so many things all the time with that 11 that are sparking. So I don't really go to the bottom of what's there and what could feel like a failure, what could feel like panic. I think it's important to look at the codon ring that you have in your Pluto as well. So for me, it's one of the codon rings is the 28 and the 32, which is that panic, that purposelessness. But of course, if you're traveling all the time, if you're doing a million things, you have all these ideas, it's like, then you don't really have to feel that, but instead facing that purposelessness, facing that failure, that there has been so much panic around when it comes to results, when it comes to grades in school, when it comes to these kinds of things. Yeah, it's not the 11. It's not the optimism of Sagittarius in the 11 that is going to have that biggest transformation for me. It's really when I dare to go deeply into the 32 and the 50 and feel the corruption and feel the failure that is there, not only for me, but in the world. I have the transpersonal in the 32. So yeah, it's what is preventing you from going there, and how could, like Ashley was saying, how could Neptune be even one of the aspects, the components that makes you veil the truth of the transformation that is there in Pluto. And I think for today we go as far out to say that this has to do with what you're here to professionally do in the world, because the world as it is today, and I wrote it in Gene Key professional group yesterday, that Facebook group that isn't so active. Somebody was asking about the vaccine and about taking a stand or not, and what Richard had said about it, or not said about it. And for me, it's important. where we are right now to take a stand for transformation, and because we are the transformation, and if we don't take a stand, there could be a transformation that then down the road we don't agree with. So I feel it's important in our lives, in our profession, and our mission are hand in hand. And that's the whole thing with business by design. It's like business by you as uniquely you, and it can't be something where you disconnect from yourself to go and do some work, and then you come home and you have your life, and then at the end of the month you're paid something. Like, that's done, that's finished, that's an illusion, that's a veil. Like that would really be the most dangerous thing to do right now in the world, is what I believe.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of the planets that are closer to the sun, and we're on the Earth, and a lot of the ones that are closer there, that has more impact and more, like, it's right in your face. So it's easier for you to go there. But it's about exploration and expansion, and you have to expand your awareness out to these points. So oftentimes we're not even ready for Pluto, although he is coming in sneakily and creating transformation in our life, and change is happening, but we're not aware of it. So the more you can make friends with and get into connection with Pluto, you're going to be bringing and expanding your consciousness and awareness so that you can have that transformation, you can have that change. And I feel like change and transformation go hand in hand, because things need to shift in your life. You need to make room for transformation. There's things that you need to purge, and there's things that need to awaken inside of you. So Pluto's going to bring that to you. And so for me, I have to say yes to relationships. I have to say yes to my fractal, and discerning who is my fractal and who's not. But I can't say no in fear of, the failure or the death of the relationship. I've had so many relationships that don't last, so many friendships that don't last, because they just weren't on my fractal. I was sitting by myself picking up my kids, because I was hearing the moms that I normally hang out with or approach me talking about such superficial stuff, and I only want to go deep, and they're like, yeah, my kids and this and that, and I cut my hair, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just can't go there. I can't go there. So I say no to that, but there could still be transformation there. I could be the one to help open them up to the deeper topics, like bringing that up, but I don't take initiative, and I don't want to go there because I don't want to be bored talking about the superficial, talking about the things that just fill our day and distract us, that have meaning, but don't have this deeper meaning. I think I'm driven by my Pluto, and it has to have this deeper purpose, and it has to hold transformation. It has to be aligned with my purpose and what I want to do. So in a way, I'm selfish in a way that I don't want to talk about that stuff. That's not what interests me, and that's not what excites me. So I won't go over there. But I have said yes to relationships, and they do always run their course, and I do always learn something from them. And even if they're not on my fractal or not for the long term, the season that I do have them, I learn a lot of stuff. So my 44.1 is always investigating these relationships and knowing, there's friction, there's interference, let's learn how to work as a team. So, I mean, and I have the 44.1 in the 10th house. So it's business. So a lot of my business ventures and relationships are where I learn the most and I have the most transformation. And I have to say yes to things and yes to change. And sometimes the purge is the purge of things inside of me, and sometimes the purge is the purge of the relationship. So I'm needing to discern a lot and take responsibility and ownership for like my part in things, so that I can learn and grow and transform, and parts of me can awaken from what's purging and what I'm letting go of. So, I mean, the 28 is death too. It's like the egregor of all fears, and the fear of dying and dying before you fulfill your purpose. So I'm motivated to let go of my stuff. And I tell people that I work with, Bella knows and Simone knows, I'm like, tell me, like, call me out on stuff. Like, I want to know what I don't see. I want to see what I don't see. I want to know what I don't know. And it doesn't mean it's always comfortable. It's not usually comfortable, but I want to go there. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of, yeah. Do you feel like anything's purging or awakening in you? Like letting go, purging, like what's happening for you? What do you think you're letting go of?
Well, I think I'm letting go of the thoughts that I'm a fourth line in my personality and in my vocation and in my SQ, and I thought I could always have all these different opportunities open at the same time. And it just feels like with the world right now, I'm not going to be able to have a beach house in Spain and an apartment in New York and like all these things where I am tourist. So I wanted to have platforms everywhere so I can come home and be in comfort. Kind of what I used to have, like 3 places, one in Sweden, one in France, and one here, where I could always go home and it's already there. And I guess I'm letting go, and I'm even like having to choose maybe one place, and where is that one place? And I believe I've never had that. And I think it's when you're born in the 80s, you're born like with these parents that were born in the 40s and the 50s, and that were making a lot of that, kind of the first generation that were making a lot of money after the war. I don't even know, but like they already had done a lot, and then we were told that we could do anything and everything and have everything. And there is just something with the way the world is changing where I see that it's not that I can't have everything, but it's going to be in a different way than I thought. So I think I'm letting go of that. I'm very much about my own direction. And I think that I should decide everything. And I think my dad always said, tell her the opposite of what we want her to do, then she might do it. So I believe that there's a little bit of that battle in me of like, why can I not do it my way? Why do I have to accept this and that? So, and maybe something with that is, we have spoken about before, it's also good, because what would be your first choice? And that can be a way of not going into that deeper. Like if you can have everything, but then you don't have to choose, which is, I have my Mars in Libra that came back into gate 46 yesterday, exactly on top of my Mars. That's a 2-year period. And Mars in Libra can have this difficulty with choosing, because it's always seeing all the scales, all the consequence of everything, and then it can't really act. And Mars loves to act. So I believe that that's a little bit hard for me. I'd rather have all these possibilities so I can decide like kind of on a wing on a day. But to have to decide once and for all and cut, which is that 32, it's hard for me. So that's what I realized that I'm gonna probably have to do. So I don't know. That didn't sound like it was something that I'm like that is dying, but I guess that some of these beautiful things that I could just like, you see a monkey in the trees in the jungle and it can just jump from like one thing to another. Like I'm kind of letting go of some of these jumps cannot be done that easily anymore. And I have to choose what tree is my home tree. And that is hard for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing you do it physically, and then I've always noticed how you've always had other projects or things, like other people and partners. That's this, and it's less and less and less now. Like, you used to be way more involved in the gene keys and stuff, and I'm like, stay here. I don't know. Like, you need to stay here, and we need to develop this and build this. Why are you going over there? It's like, even though Bella couldn't travel, she was still traveling. And I'm like, get over here, Bella, swing back over to this tree. And she was like, no, I want variety. I need variety. But I am seeing you spend more and more time in this tree, in this home, and that's cool. And I mean, just like the 32, like it's about what are you nourishing and nurturing in your garden, and what needs to go. And some of it is crops and some of it is weeds. And sometimes we don't have the time and energy and ability to nurture and have this big of a garden. Sometimes we like have to like downsize too and be like, oh, let's really develop this. And this is what we're going to do. And I'm going to be really intentional about it. Yeah. So it's super interesting.
Well, maybe to say daring to kill things, that's what I think is a lot this week. We are in the 6 and the 36, the sun and the earth. So that is turbulence. And then we have Venus in Scorpio right now, and she's aspecting Saturn and Uranus, which have been square to each other like last year and this year, and coming 2 times this year, and it's coming back at Christmas. So there is this tension about what has to die. And I would say that Venus doesn't like things to die. She likes things to be in harmony and in love and beautiful. But there are tensions here between the old and the new, and things that are going to have to go and things are going to have to die. And I think that the example what I'm kind of seeing in my own life, that's just one example. We all have some of those tensions. And we also, if you look at the body graph, you would see that there are quite a lot of emotional, other than this 36 and the 6, we have the 49 and the 22. There are going to be pulls as well, emotional pulls this week. So when you can stay in center and allow the things that want to die and see where you redirect that energy. That's what I think is going to be the most useful, and including in work, because remember, work and life are the same. And the more we can have that seamless work and life, the more I feel it's going to be easy to go also into the future.
Yeah. Okay, so we have something for you as we're kind of wrapping up. I'm going to share a word search that we created for our Business by Design, and I want you to just look at it, and whatever the first word you see is, type it in the comments. And this is kind of what Pluto's going to be activating for you. So here's the word search. So whatever the first word it is that you see, write it in the comments. What's the first word you see, Bella?
I was going to share it in some groups. I see phone again. Who's going to call me? Or am I going to get a really bad news by the phone or something? Like Pluto news on the phone? I don't even want to think about that. You know, my grandmother or something. But that's the word that I see.
You're funny. It's Persephone. You need to go look up Persephone and see like who she is and what she represents. I saw soul, and then I saw love backwards. LOVE backwards. So.
Oh my God, isn't that funny? Like, Ashley, sometimes I feel in life that you have been I know I have been doing love backwards, but maybe you too have been doing love backwards somehow. That's powerful.
For sure. Maybe my soul is going to teach me how to like do it the right way. I don't know. What is the right way? Is there a right way? What does that even mean? What is doing love backwards? What does that mean? What does that mean, Bella? I don't even know.
Well, I did love backwards because I thought the more you suffer, the more the love is really strong. And then I was with somebody maybe 6-7 years ago, and he said, and I said, but it doesn't make any sense. I'm on this side of the world and you're on that side of the world. Like, what sense does it make? I don't even know when I go back there. And he's like, well, right now, or when you think of me, don't you smile? And I was like, that's totally what I do. And then he's like, well, for him, that was love. You know, when you just feel this joy in you, so you just have to smile when you think of another person. And that just made me understand that I had been doing love backwards my whole life, because I was really focused on, you know, the harder it is, the more I love you with, you know, kind of the depth of my soul, but it's in suffering. The more I thought I had to stay and that it was powerful. That intensity probably, you know, of Scorpio that both you and I have, where we can be like in a battle, and somehow we think that that's a battle that has to be played out, when we could just turn around 180 degrees and somebody would love us in a way that was so much more joyful. You know, I can see you and me like 20 years ago, you know, or 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'm ready to turn that love around. Like, I want to know. Yes. Amanda says alchemy. Or sorry, shadow. Paul says alchemy. Lewis says invisible. Yeah. So I would say this is how Pluto's speaking to you. So just like contemplate these words and open up to the possibility of Pluto illuminating that to you. Even the invisible that Lewis got, that's kind of like Pluto is invisible until he's like there, because he wears that invisible helmet in mythology. So you don't know and you don't see him until he's like right in your face. So contemplate your Pluto, and we'd love to hear kind of how you can weave the word that you took from this and what it's kind of speaking to you and telling you about your Pluto, and how that's going to bring you, you know, transformation or change. And if you want to weave it and connect it to your business, that's awesome as well. So if you got invisible, how can you link that to your business? Or if you got alchemy, what wants to alchemize in your business? Or shadow, where is their shadow that needs to be illuminated? And again, we spoke in the beginning, how is the shadow the fertile ground? Like, how can you use that to your benefit too? So anything you want to close with, Bella?
No, I think that was good. I thank you for the questions, Ashley, and thank you for the love turned right.
I hope it was turned right. I'm like, oh, I'm doing it wrong again. No. Yes, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next Thursday. Hopefully next Tuesday as well. You can tune in the afternoon time, and we'll be talking about the transit. So the next transit that's coming is the 46, which we call the sensual. So we'll see you there. And thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.